Welcome to the All Things Nintendo podcast. I'm Brian Shea, and this is a weekly podcast to discuss all the biggest news and games from the world of Nintendo. It has been a busy week in that world of Nintendo. Just last week, several members of the media were able to travel to New York and get extended hands-on with Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. We will be talking all about that in the main segment. We also have the first real trailer of the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Plus, I think we've got a pretty fun way to end this week's show. And joining me for all of that is my friend and yours, Restart's Jesse Vitelli. Jesse, what's the best Guns N' Roses song?
Anything off Chinese Democracy.
Okay, perfect. I was ready for you to say literally anything, like any valid answer, and I was just going to say incorrect and then just move on. But you subverted my expectations. But
that's what I'm here for.
We're off to a great start. Jesse, how's Restart going?
Restart's going great. You know, we're making good content over there. You know, we got a very strong, cast over there, if that's what you want to call them. I don't know, staff, I guess. I like calling them cast. I feel like we're all a little like we're performing, Disney? We're on video, we're doing stuff. I like to think of us as a cast. No, everything's great over there. You know, it's review season, much like I'm sure you're used to. It's just busy season. We're all heads down working on stuff. We got reviews coming out all the time. Fun features. I wrote about Blueprints, one of my favorite games this year earlier, like a week or two ago. And we're just full steam ahead on the rest of this year, which is not slowing down at all, but making a great ton of social content, great YouTube videos. We're having a blast.
Yeah, I've been talking on this show a good deal about how wild December is of all months. Yeah. Like Metroid Prime, which we're going to be talking about later, Marvel Cosmic Invasion. There's Assassin's Creed Shadows is coming to Switch. Another game that we're going to be talking about later on in the show, Red Dead Redemption. Mm-hmm. Just a lot of games coming out. I think Skate Story is another one of those December releases.
Octopath Traveler Zero,
Metroid,
that's right. Elden Ring DLC, all on the same day. They're all December 4th is like specifically stacked.
Yeah, it is going to be a weird December, and unfortunately, none of them will qualify for the Game Awards.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But Jesse, before we jump into the news topics of this week, just a reminder that everyone is listening to the All Things Nintendo podcast. This show arrives in your podcast feeds completely free each and every Friday, brought to you by the fine folks who support me on Patreon. Without people like them, it is not an exaggeration to say that this show would simply not exist. You can join the Patreon for as little as $3 a month. That gets you access to the community Discord, which gets you access to fellow listeners of the show. But there are also $5 and $10 tiers that get you early and ad-free episodes, plus shout-outs at the end of every show. Just go to patreon.com and search All Things Nintendo. Again, it is only because of the wonderful folks who support this show that it is able to continue each and every week. Jesse, normally we do this thing where I start the show with Pokemon news, but I don't think there's any universe or galaxy for that matter where we could start the news segment in any way other than with the Nintendo Direct that we got this week. And it was focused on giving us an info dump and the first real trailer for the Super Mario Galaxy movie. So we just got the Galaxy games on Switch and Switch 2, and now we're getting the Mario Galaxy movie early next year. And I was wondering what your opinion on the first Mario movie was.
I really enjoyed the first Mario movie. I thought it was like the perfect blend of, okay, here's a bunch of references, like, everyone's looking in the background for things, and it's like a perfect blend of that with like a decent story. I really thought like it was paced incredibly well. Like it kind of just went by in a flash. And it was a fun time. I saw it in theaters with a bunch of there was just like a bunch of parents bringing their children, and like everyone was having a good time. The vibes were very high, very immaculate, just like aces. My biggest issue with the Mario movie is that I wish they relied less on like licensed music and more just on like the Mario. Like Mario has such a good breadth of music to pull from. And instead they're like, oh, here's like Take On Me. And I'm like, okay, like
that's the worst offender for sure.
It's good. I like that song. I think it works in the scene, but I'm like, why not do like the Rainbow Road thing? Like, why not like do like there's so many songs you could pull from for that specific scene.
Yeah. Somebody, or I guess it was Tim Geddes when he came on the show, he told me that somebody recut the Mario movie with like removing the licensed songs and putting in actual like contextual Mario music, or in that case, Donkey Kong Country music.
Yeah.
And it is just so much better.
I'm
And
sure it is.
I would love to see that. I need to hit him up and be like, hey, can you send me that
Yeah.
clip of like them riding through Donkey Kong Country without Take On Me and instead like what is it like the DK Jungle Beat or I don't know what it's called the
I
something
don't even know.
hijinks, right? Like I don't know, the just like the Donkey Kong Country theme.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think that I'm with you pretty much like hand in hand on that because like I thought it was a blast and I'm somebody who saw it 3 times in the course of 10 days because I flew out there for the press junket back in
Mm.
2023 and I went to a screener in Hollywood in just like a screening room and got to see it then. And then I got a call from Nintendo and they're like, hey, do you want to go to the premiere and then the next morning interview Shigeru Miyamoto and Koji Kondo? And I'm like, well, I'm not going to say no to that. So I saw it again like a week later. And then I already had a ticket for opening day because I didn't know any of this stuff was happening when the tickets went on sale. And so I was going to go with my partner. So I went with her and it was like, yeah, I've seen this movie enough times. I don't need to see it again for a very, very long time. But yeah, I can say that my claim to fame is I watched the Mario movie with Shigeru Miyamoto. So
That's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool accolade. You'd be like, oh, just put that on my resume. Just watch the
I mean,
Mario movie with Shigeru Miyamoto.
he was sitting several rows behind me.
Oh,
But
so you were in front of Miyamoto. Miyamoto
yes,
wasn't front row.
well, he came up in front with Chris Meledandri and the cast and everything, and Chris Pratt, Seth Rogen, Anya Taylor-Joy, all of them were there, and then they like gave like a little like thank you speech, and then they walked back and like they sat like right in the middle, like dead center of the theater, which is arguably the best spot to be.
Yeah,
Um, but a Backstreet Boy did sit in front of me, like directly the seat in front of me. Him and his
whoa,
kid were there, which was kind of cool.
that is cool.
But getting back to the Mario Galaxy movie, this trailer, I thought I thoroughly enjoyed it. Right, like it starts out like it went a little long in the tooth in this first like gag that they put on there with like the shtick about Mario and Luigi standing over Bowser, and he's excited to show them his painting of him and
Yeah,
Peach, and I don't know. It just seemed like this was like the vast majority of the trailer, and it's like this is our first real look at it. But then we get to see like the star shower, like we see in the beginning of Mario Galaxy, Peach's castle, Peach and Toad jumping into the launch star and blasting into space. So like that's the good stuff, right?
yeah,
And then
absolutely.
we see the scene where Mario and Luigi are riding motorcycles in like what looks like the desert from Mario
From
Odyssey.
Odyssey, yeah, I was
Yeah.
super confused by it. It's the inverted pyramid, and it's like, oh, are we doing Odyssey stuff in this movie? Which is like, I'm not mad about it. To be clear, I love Super Mario Odyssey, but I'm like, that feels like the next movie. That
Mhm.
feels like the one after this one. Uh, you're doing Galaxy. You already have so much to pull from. How could you possibly be pulling in Odyssey stuff? Like, what is this movie?
I mean, if it's anything like the first one, they're going to be just pulling from all eras
Yeah.
of Mario. But then it ended with Bowser Jr. telling Mario and Luigi that he's going to take his father back, and then like launches an attack. Obviously, it cuts out. A lot of people noted that it's the same like kind of siren like theme sound as Prowler in the Spider-Verse movies when Bowser
Oh,
Jr. showed up, which was kind of interesting,
that is fun.
especially since he was wearing a mask when I mean he usually wears a mask in a lot of the
Yeah.
stuff. And then we got to see Rosalina just absolutely obliterate Mega Leg, which was kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
cool. Like that was a fun way to end that trailer. But what were your like main takeaways from the first look that we got outside of what are we even doing here with including Mario Odyssey stuff?
So I feel like a lot of movies of this ilk, right? These animated sort of for children movie, like all ages movies. A lot of the trailers always have like somewhat of an extended scene. That
Hmm.
like kind of love to do that with marketing material. So I understand why the Bowser scene like runs a little long because it's like, oh, we want to give this gag like room to breathe and give everyone like a good laugh in the trailer. But then it cuts so much, and they show a pretty decent chunk of different blips from all over the movie. So I'm really interested to see what they're not showing, because if they're going to show jumping through the stars and the star shower and mega and like all this stuff, it's like, okay, well, what are you holding back? And so I'm
Hmm.
hoping that they're holding more back. I'm sure they are, but I think they gave us just enough. Like, I'd be good not seeing another trailer. Like, I don't need any more. I'm sold. I'm gonna go see it. I kind of know what I'm getting into. I don't really need a lot, but I do have one major issue.
Okay,
I did put this on Blue Sky, but I'm gonna repeat it here.
Please do.
So in Super Mario Sunshine, Bowser Jr.'s magic paintbrush is created by Professor Egad. You see Egad's logo on it. Egad is a war criminal in some regards when it comes to this, right? You know, he's making weapons for the enemy. Then in three Bowser's Fury, they changed the paintbrush logo to be Bowser Jr.'s logo. So they're erasing Egad from the equation. And then in this movie, Bowser Jr.'s staff also has the Bowser Jr. logo on it, the paintbrush. No longer Egad's out of the picture. So I'm upset because I was hoping Egad's logo would be there because then they could make it a Luigi's Mansion movie. We could bring Luigi's Mansion into the fold.
I mean, they're almost certainly doing that, right? Like they're doing Donkey Kong Country.
I hope so.
They've got to have a Luigi's Mansion movie. Like, I would not be surprised if they were just like, hey, you know, we're going to do this Mario Galaxy movie. Then everybody's going to get their kind of spin-offs. We could get Donkey Kong Country. We could get Luigi's Mansion. That would be a great, like, Halloween era.
So
like, yeah.
But the EGAD erasure that's happening. I need that was my one link and it's gone.
Yeah, I mean it's I mean he hasn't been introduced in the universe yet, so we've probably got to get there. Maybe he'll get captured by Bowser and Bowser Jr. and they'll force him to like make their equipment better, and
so
then they
cool.
can slap his logo on it.
He could be voiced by Steve Buscemi.
Oh my god! Well, that's a good segue into the next thing that we learned, which is we learned who are voicing some of the new characters. So Brie Larson of Captain Marvel and Room fame is the voice of Rosalina. And then Benny Safdie, who was in Good Time, Uncut Gems, and Oppenheimer, is Bowser Jr., which... Inspired casting. Fantastic casting. Brie Larson especially, I think, is incredible casting because like she is Nintendo super fan number one. So absolutely. I bet she was like banging on her agent's door, like, get me in this movie.
Yeah, and honestly, like a perfect role. Like I think Rosalina, it fits super well. Does that mean that if there's ever a Metroid movie, we don't get Brie Larson as Samus? Because that was like for the longest time, that was what she was gunning for. So I don't know.
Didn't she go as Samus for Halloween one year?
I believe so.
I thought it was like a Zero Suit Samus situation that she went as, which is a perfect fit. I mean, she looks like Samus, so it makes sense, and she's a diehard Nintendo fan. Also, can I just point out how much I loved the Jack Black crash of the Direct? Like, I was uncertain about it when it first happened, so I'm like, oh boy, he can be a lot sometimes, or most of the time. But every time I've interacted with him in like passive ways, like both one time it was at E3 and one time it was at the Mario movie premiere after party, he's been a delight. You know, he was taking pictures with kids wearing a suit that was like themed after Bowser. He was like, some guy was like, I don't know about the music the DJ's playing, and you hear Jack Black just go, no, he knows what he's doing. And I was like, yeah, he's got the DJ's back. But Jack Black crashes the Direct while Chris Meledandri is like, you know, kind of going back and forth, throwing it to Miyamoto, coming back, and, you know, just doing 110% of everything whenever he does anything. Like, he's full send personified. And I loved him walking out, not only rocking like a sick Dia de los Muertos shirt, but also continuing to call Chris Meledandri Chris-san, just because that's what Miyamoto calls him. He's standing there. He's like, let me tell you something, Chris-san. I'm just like, all right.
Good bit.
It's a very good bit. Just a fun moment in the Direct. But how did, like, the castings? Benny Safdie, I'm less familiar with him than I am Brie Larson, but like I've seen him in stuff. Like, how do you feel he fits that role?
It's interesting because I'm also not like super familiar with Benny Safdie. However, Bowser Jr. is one of those characters that feels very malleable, because I feel like when Bowser Jr. shows up, he has personality. Don't get me wrong, but it's usually just sort of like with the exception of Mario Sunshine, it's usually sort of like a passive role. Like, he's just kind of there. He does his thing and he leaves. So I'm interested to see what direction they take Bowser Jr. in this movie, and what they decide like is going to be his shtick, I guess, for the film, because he seems to be playing like primary antagonist in this film. And so I'm curious to see if he's going to be like a goofy antagonist, or if Benny Safdie's going to play it straight, or what, because you could kind of go anywhere with that. And so I'm super curious to know how they're going to handle Bowser Jr.
I feel like he's going to be, because like Bowser is very much like a goofball in that movie, the first
Exactly.
movie, and it seems like
Yeah.
they're even doubling down on that. I mean, it's Jack Black, so of course he's going to be a bit of a goofball. I feel like Bowser Jr. could be like the straight man in like that buddy
Yeah.
cop duo, but at the same time, kind of like a bumbling fool. And like, yeah, he's going to take himself very seriously, but to a fault, and it's gonna the
Yeah.
humor is going to arise out of that. Like how,
He's a kid. Like,
yeah,
you know.
exactly. He's going to try to be cool, try to do like the heroic thing, but fall flat on his face a few times, and that's where like the comedy comes from. At least
Yeah.
that's my prediction. Who knows what they're actually going to do?
I think if they're both goofy, it's maybe too much. Like if you have Bowser being goofy and Bowser Jr. being goofy, like it's endearing to a certain extent, but then I think it gets too much if that's the whole film. So I do think that Bowser Jr. has to be played straight for like a good chunk of the film, and then maybe they have their like father son team up and they be goofballs together at the end of the film or something. But yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Well, we're not all that far off from this movie. It's coming to theaters in April 2026, so
Yeah,
about less than 6 months. Like I guess right around 6 months.
yeah,
So we'll know a lot more in the coming months. So exciting, because I also really enjoyed the first Super Mario Brothers movie. So looking forward to that. And it feels like we've had a good stretch of Pokemon news lately. And
yeah.
this time we actually have a 2-pack of Pokemon news. And first up, a game that we learned about during the September Nintendo Direct has an early 2026 release date. And that game is Pokemon Pokopia, which is the game where you kind of take control of a Ditto that has transformed into a weird like nightmare fuel human, and then you play a game that looks like a cross between like Dragon Quest Builders and Animal Crossing with, a lot of Pokemon mechanics mixed in for good measures. And we've learned that that game is coming out on March 5th, 2026. But just this morning, as of this recording, we got a new trailer, and it was over 10 minutes long. And this is another trailer where I think they went a little long on kind of the bit. And it was like half of it was just like, all right, we're going to hear this new character, Professor Tangrowth, talk. And it's like, I don't know, it seems like this is like all stuff that's happening in the first like 10 minutes of the game, where it's just like tutorial. But I guess that's what you need to do when it's like the first substantial trailer for this game.
Yeah.
But basically, like the whole conceit is you're building different biomes to attract different Pokemon on this island. Ditto can like copy different abilities from other Pokemon, or just outright change into them for like pretty powerful stuff. Like they showed like Ditto copying like Hitmonchan's ability to punch through bricks, or Squirtle's ability to water plants, or Scyther's ability to cut down bushes. And then like they showed like if you need to like go to a different island, you can transform fully into a Lapras and swim across, or transform into a Dragonite and fly. How's this game like shaping up for you?
It's weird because the more that they show of it, the more of it feels like Pokemon HM the game, where it's like, yeah, you
Oh
could just
yeah.
do all the HMs that like you could cut, you can fly, you can surf, strength. Like we're just building a game around that has nothing to do with like most of the other things. That being said, I'm super into it. I love Dragon Quest Builders, so this scratches like a very specific itch for me. And that being said, it's Pokemon, which is another thing that I also love. So like even if the game itself is sort of monotonous and a little long in the tooth, it's Pokemon, so I'm gonna play through it and see it to the end because that's how I live my life. So I'm interested. I'm interested enough in it. I also think it looks more fleshed out than a lot of other Pokemon spin-off games tend to be, especially when we get a lot of like the mobile, like Masters EX and Pokemon. It was a Cafe Remix and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
which are I'm not knocking those games. I don't play them personally, but like this is like okay, cool. We're getting a non-mainline, non-Legends game that feels like it has a lot of like meat on it. It feels like it's very fleshed out and it's trying to do something very different, very very different. It reminds me a little bit of that Pokemon Cube. All the Pokemon were cubes. Do you
Oh
remember what I'm
yeah,
talking about? It was like Pokemon
Quest,
Quest. It reminds
Conquest,
me like a
Quest,
little bit
Quest.
of that game that was like mobile Switch. That came out in that weird presentation that they did in like Japan at like 10 p.m. Eastern time, and suddenly there was like a new Pokemon game. They announced the Let's Go games there. It was a very weird presentation, but it reminds me a little bit of that, just in its sort of presentation style.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really love that game, so I'm hoping that this game has like a lot more going on, and it seems like it does. And also, I would die for Professor Tangrowth. Thank you, I got there. Professor Tangrowth. It's a mouthful.
I think I reviewed Pokemon Quest or whatever it was called, and I think I gave it like a 6. Like not a
Yeah.
great game. It had some fun stuff about it, but like yeah, I don't know, didn't do much for me. But Pokemon Pokopia looks like a blast. Like it we're not getting an Animal Crossing game probably in the next year at least. We're
No.
getting that Animal Crossing New Horizons Switch 2 update, but like this, it oddly enough, this is like almost 6 years to the day after Animal Crossing came out. Because what was that, like March 13th,
Yeah.
2020 or March 6th, 2020? I don't know, but
Something like
like
that.
this is March 5th, 2026. So it's not that far off, and I feel like we are just learning about like how the core game works. So it'll be interesting to see how that all pans out. I'm definitely really excited for it, and I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to playing it. Hopefully there's going to be like a hands-on session or something in the near future.
I
But
hope so. I need to see how I need like an hour of that game. You know, like I need to just see how when you stretch that out a little bit more, like what does that look like?
absolutely, and I will be eagerly volunteering to go on that trip if they end up having like a hands-on session. So, in addition to Pokopia, we also learned that the PokéPark Kanto theme park that is opening in Tokyo is coming a month before Pokopia on February 5th, which is going to be just in time for the series' 30th anniversary.
Yeah.
So they released a trailer showing off like all the stuff that's going to be in there. The YouTube description says that you can buy exclusive merchandise from Pokemon, the Pokemon Trainers Market. You can take in a show at the gym or go wild at the Battle Court. And then I was like, well, there's got to be more information on this since it's so close to opening. So I went over to their website, and there is a ton of new info. Here's the description there. It says, quote, located in Yamori Land, nestled among the verdant Tama Hills, PokéPark Kanto is the first ever permanent Pokemon outdoor facility. Here, Pokemon trainers can embark on an unforgettable adventure as they explore a forest and town filled with more than 600 Pokemon.
Whoa.
And then there's also a map that I found on the site that shows 3 distinct areas. The entrance, which features a plaza with Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle waiting for you. Then you can go to the Pokemon Research Lab, which is basically the ticket booth that you can, buy access to get into the area, which I think is a cool little nod, seeing as how almost every Pokemon game starts with you going to a Pokemon Research Lab.
Yeah.
Then there's the Pokemon Forest, which is 1,600 feet long with hills, tall grass, tunnels, trails, and more. And it seems like it's mostly Kanto themed since like they specifically call out Gen 1 Pokemon, but then they also
Yeah.
say other region Pokemon will be present in the forest. And then the third and final area of PokéPark Kanto is Sedgetown. And this has a Pokemon Trainers Market, which is a store, a Pokemon Center, a Pokemart, which I think is where you can get like some of the food and everything. They'll have like exclusive like Pokemon themed drinks, the gym, Pokemon Parade, and 2 rides. The Pika Pika Paradise, which is described as a ride powered by 30 electric type Pokemon, and the the VV Voyage, which is a
Oh.
carousel themed after Eevee, and you I guess Eevee's on a like being pulled by a balloon, and you're in a carriage being pulled by Ponyta and Rapidash. And
Okay.
at the gym, they have stage shows that happen throughout the day. And according to the website, the Sedgetown gym is electric type. So I would bet that that means that they're kind of capitalizing on like the light show
Yeah.
spectacle of like the whole thing. Do you think that's the easiest type that they could replicate in a stage show?
Water.
That's what I was thinking too. But like, would
Yeah.
that be as like that would be the easiest for practical effects? But would that be like the most pleasing to the eyes?
I don't know. I think a lot about like the Disneyland water shows that they do and how they have all the fountains, or like you go to Vegas and like all the fountains do all the. I feel like, I mean, none of this is easy, right? But I do think water is maybe the easiest. I could see a case for lights. Like if you're really building out like a crazy light show, that's probably also easier than like fire. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's just dangerous. Grass, what are you gonna do? You gonna bring out a leaf blower? Like so I
Update on February 6th, 2026. PokéPark Kanto has burned to the
burn down.
ground.
Yeah. Well, no, they could do a it's a fire show and then they do burnt tower and they
Oh.
burn down the tower and then Suicune, Entei, and Raikou come out and then
But then
that's how
that's
they
changing
unveil the
Pokemon
next.
lore.
But then you know what? But that's how they announce their expansion. We've burnt this tower to the ground. Anyway, here's Johto.
So I was also thinking maybe fighting would be a good one because then they
Ooh,
could just do
yeah,
like a martial arts demonstration, which would be
yeah,
fun. Just dress up Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee and Machamp and like have them do like martial arts moves. But I was
yeah.
thinking about it more and more, and I was like, you know what? this just lets them put Pikachu in a show, and
Yeah,
that's
that's
going to
really what
make
it
the
is.
crowd happy. They're going to go home with a smile. That's all you need. But Jesse, on a scale from 1 to 10, how interested are you in going to PokéPark Kanto?
Oh, a 10.
Mm.
This is the closest I'm ever gonna get in my life to real life Pokemon. You know what I mean? This is it. Like we tried it with Pokemon Go and the AR stuff, and like I liked living in that world for a hot minute, like everyone did in 2016. But like truly, this is probably the thing I'm most of all the Nintendo theme parks that they've done. You know, Donkey Kong and Super Nintendo Land and all that stuff. This is the coolest thing. This is by far like what I would travel for.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited to go to Donkey Kong Country
Yeah.
because I haven't done that yet. I've done the California and the Osaka Nintendo Worlds, but it was
Mhm.
before Donkey Kong Country opened at the Osaka one.
Oh yeah.
But I am going to Florida in March, and I am going to try to convince my parents to take a trip down to Orlando and do the Epic Universe, which has the Super Mario or Super Nintendo World, including Donkey Kong Country.
Yeah, you
So,
gotta go.
but I mean, and I'm frustrated because I'm going to Tokyo at the end of December, so I'm just going to miss this.
Just a little bit.
But if you do find yourself in Tokyo, February 2026 or later, you can visit PokéPark Kanto starting February 5th, although it's probably going to be very tough to get tickets in those initial months.
Oh, for sure.
Jesse, we learned that Sonic Racing CrossWorlds is getting some more DLC, including Ai from Super Monkey Ball, Knights from Nights into Dreams, and two characters from the IDW comic series, which I didn't know who they were because I've only read like the very beginning of that comic run, but I saw the Sonic subreddit was very excited, so I'm happy for them. Plus, we
Yeah.
learned that the previously announced SpongeBob DLC that adds SpongeBob and Patrick, plus a couple of other things from the SpongeBob universe, is coming out November 19th. Outside of me just saying Sonic Racing Crossworlds is a really fun kart racer, and I'm glad that Nights into Dreams is getting some love, I don't really have anything to say about it. Do you have anything to say about it?
No, the only thing I have to say about it is I really thought the SpongeBob stuff came out already. I feel like
It was
they were
announced
showing
so
it.
long
It was
ago.
so long ago. So I just kind of assumed that came out when the game came out. So that's cool. You don't need a license to drive a sandwich. Am I right?
That's that's what they say.
That's what they
That's
say.
the famous phrase that they always
Yeah.
say. But everyone's talking about Grand Theft Auto 6 getting delayed to November 2026. But that's none of our concern here on a Nintendo focused podcast. However, what is our concern is that Red Dead Redemption, the first one, the original one,
Yeah.
is getting a Switch 2 version extremely soon. The game's already out on Switch 1, but it's kind of a compromised version. It's not terrible, but it's not what we're used to in 2025. This Switch 2 version, which will be a free upgrade for everyone who already owns Red Dead Redemption on Switch 1, adds HDR, mouse controls, and of course, 60 frames per second. It also includes the very fun Undead Nightmare DLC, and it arrives on Switch 2 on December 2nd. Where does Red Dead Redemption rank among your favorite Rockstar games?
Amongst my favorite Rockstar games, pretty high.
Mm.
I think the only games I would put above it are probably like San Andreas and like GTA 3. And then I think Red Dead's like right there.
I think I would put San Andreas and 3 below Red Dead
Interesting.
1.
I mean, I could see
Like,
the argument. I can
I
absolutely see.
loved Red Dead. And I thought it was like the kind of the sweet spot where they were starting to really hit their stride in like the modernizations that we saw with something like GTA 5, where it was like, okay, this feels like they've entered a new era
Mm-hmm.
of gameplay feeling as good as it does, the world feeling as good as it does, the side stuff. Like GTA 4 still had some of that weirdness of like, the side stuff, I don't want to do any of it. Whereas Red Dead, I was
Yeah,
riding through that world and I was like, I want to do everything this world has to offer.
absolutely.
And I think they really struck a good note with all of the stuff in that world. I think it's up there with me for me with like GTA 5, which I really enjoyed, and Red Dead 2. Red Dead 2 is one of those weird ones where it's like once it gets going, it's fantastic, but it can take a while to
Yep.
get that horse moving. But it is, once it does get going, it is like a once in a generation level of storytelling that they get. And like I got super attached to Arthur and all them. So I'm hoping that we get Red Dead 2 at some point on Switch 2. But that's also a much more technically demanding
Yeah, that's a
game.
tough one.
But yeah, that's coming out December 2nd. So another game to add to that first week of December alongside Metroid Prime 4, Marvel Cosmic Invasion, Octopath Traveler 0, and Assassin's Creed Shadows coming to Switch 2. So a lot going on that same week. But a couple months ago, I talked about a game called The Rogue Prince of Persia, which hit 1.0 earlier this year, and it came to all consoles but Switch and Switch 2. And now we finally know when it's going to come to the Nintendo side of things. The Rogue Prince of Persia arrives very late in the year, and that date is December 16th. Have you checked this game out at all?
No. So I used to get this one confused with the other Prince of Persia that came out kind of around the same time,
The Lost
which was
Crown?
Lost Crown. I played Lost Crown. I did not play Rogue Prince of Persia, but
It
I've heard
was
pretty solid things. People liked it pretty well.
Yeah, it was a weird one in that, like, we didn't have a Prince of Persia game for so long.
Yeah,
We've been waiting for this Sands of Time remake for seemingly longer than GTA 6 at this point, it feels. And we suddenly got two games out of nowhere. It's like Ninja
yeah,
Gaiden, where like Ninja
yeah.
Gaiden, we didn't get a game since like the Wii U. And then suddenly it's like, all right, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, Ninja Gaiden 4 all in the same calendar year. And that's kind of how the Rogue Prince of
Wild.
Persia and Prince of Persia the Lost Crown felt coming out that same year. Because it's like, couldn't we have spaced this out and not made it feel like so feast or famine?
Yeah,
But I mean, it's by the developers who did Dead Cells.
that's who it was. I was like, the developer was It was a prominent dev. Just could not remember who.
Yeah, Evil Empire. And it is really fun. I haven't played like hours upon hours, but it's on Game Pass. So I checked it out when it hit Game Pass, and I was like, yeah, it's like Dead Cells, but with much better mobility and probably not as creative weapons, at least not what I've seen in like my first couple of runs. But it's really fun, and I'm excited to have it on Switch too, because I feel like it's gonna be a great home for this type of game. Like that's my go-to spot whenever I play Dead Cells is Switch. So having this on the go is going to be really exciting, and not having to lug around my giant Steam Deck, because that is just it takes up my entire backpack, which is
Yeah,
very
it's a big
frustrating because
boy.
I want to love it so much.
I do love my Steam Deck. I do hate packing it when I'm traveling light.
Mm-hmm. And finally, Jesse, the last news story we're going to touch on in this episode, we learned about Nintendo's Black Friday sales. And I would say normally Nintendo and the word sale are never really in the same sentence, but we have some, I would say, okay deals relative to how Nintendo normally is. So Princess Peach Showtime, Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, and Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe will all be $40 a piece.
All great
And
games.
then Super Mario Odyssey, Nintendo Switch Sports, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, and Splatoon 3 will all be $30 a piece. So these deals will be available at select retailers as well as the official Nintendo stores, both New York and San Francisco, and I believe online. There will also be some discounts on the Tears of the Kingdom, like the not champions, the sages amiibos.
Mm.
And then the Street Fighter 6 amiibos, they'll all be discounted by $10 each, which, funnily enough, are the ones I've been holding off on getting because they've skyrocketed in price so much.
Yeah.
I know that you're probably similar to me, Jesse, and that you already have a lot of these games. But for listeners at home, which of these deals do you think are most worth looking at?
You said Thousand Year Door was 30.
Mm-hmm.
That's like easily, I think, the best deal. That Thousand Year Door is an incredible game. It might be the only funny video game. The localization in that game it's so good. That writing is so whip smart. Like, a Thousand Year Door. That would be my pick above everything.
I would say Mario Odyssey and Splatoon 3. If you
Also
don't
great
already have those, I would say $30 is a no-brainer for both of those as well. I don't know. I feel like if you're a diehard Zelda fan, like maybe Echoes of Wisdom is worth it, but like be warned that it's a pretty different style of Zelda game. Like going in, like this is not just like hack and slash style game. Like just be warned that it's going to be a little bit different. But if you're like, oh yeah, I've been holding off because it looks so different from like what I want from a Zelda game, maybe $40 isn't like the worst price, because
Yeah.
Lord knows Nintendo is not going to discount it more than that for probably another couple of years.
No, you gotta wait for the Switch 3 before it gets discounted again.
Yeah. There will also be a big eShop and My Nintendo Store digital sale that's running from November 20th through December 3rd. So if none of those catch your eye, then you'll have another shot at finding something during that. But is there any game that you're really hoping goes on sale? Like, do you use like the wish list functionality on the eShop like I do?
No, I should be better about it. So I don't. The thing is, like, I'm so buried right now in things that it's like so hard to even think past what I'm already playing. Um, but I'm trying to think of like a game, like a Nintendo game that I haven't gotten to yet that I would really like to get to. I haven't played Echoes of Wisdom. I would
Okay.
like to at some point, just for the sake of like completion, just having played the Zelda games. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything in particular that I'm like looking to go on, like for it to go on sale. Um, it's tough.
Yeah, I'm looking at like my wish list, and it's all third party stuff.
Yeah.
But Super Techno's World, River City, and Techno's Arcade Classics. It has like Super Dodgeball and everything,
Okay.
and a bunch of different like classic arcade games. That I've been waiting for that to go on sale for a while. Also, I've never played Astral Chain, and I feel like I need to.
Oh, you do.
And I've had that on my wish list for months, and it has not gone on sale once in that
That game is
time. So
very good.
I would not mind getting that on like a discount of some sort. But yeah, outside of that, like I'll be definitely monitoring it during that window once November 20th rolls around and seeing what they put up on sale for that.
Yeah.
But Jesse, we're going to take our first break of this episode, and when we return, I will be hearing from you all about how Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is shaping up. We will be right back. We are back, and if you've been watching around the internet this week, you may have seen that the first Metroid Prime 4 Beyond previews since the Switch 2 reveal hit across multiple websites, including GameInformer.com. Jesse, you were among this group that went to this event space in New York, and he published his review, or preview, over on Restart. It's not quite a review yet. Jesse, before we get into your thoughts on Metroid Prime 4, I want to know where Metroid ranks for you in terms of Nintendo franchises.
So I love the Prime trilogy, and I love Super Metroid. I've not really played a lot of the other games, so it doesn't rank super high. Like I would put Zelda, Pokemon, Mario above Metroid. Metroid fits in that like Kirby tier for me, which is kind of like like the B tier.
Okay.
And not because of quality or anything, just because that is a franchise that I'm still like actively sort of exploring. But that being said, Metroid Prime 4 might be the game that gets me to go back and play some of the older games.
Ooh. So I saw you at the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal event back in April in New York, where I'm assuming that you, like me, had a chance to play Metroid Prime 4 for a little bit.
Yes.
Coming out of that specific demo, what were your thoughts for Metroid Prime 4?
My biggest takeaway from that demo specifically was how good the mouse controls for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond were. Like being able to, in your left hand, have just a, move around, hit buttons, and then your left hand, and then your right hand being just the mouse for aiming the cannon was like, it blew my mind. I didn't think, I wasn't a believer in the mouse controls until that moment when I was like, okay, now we're cooking something. And that demo is like pretty straightforward. You're helping the Galactic Federation. You're kind of going through this base. You're trying to stop Psylux from destroying this artifact. It's like pretty straightforward stuff, but it felt good. The music kicked in and it was like, all right, cool. It feels almost like Halo-esque in some ways and in the architecture, but also just sort of the vibe. And even though we only got a small, piece of Metroid Prime there, I walked away from that like pretty confident because before that, Metroid Prime 4 was this like not real thing. It was like floating in the
vaporware
ether.
almost.
Yeah, we were just like, yeah, okay, this game exists, I guess. It got rebooted. It had a very, very long development cycle. But then when we were playing it, I was like, oh yeah, this game is great. They're doing exactly what they needed to do for Metroid Prime.
So this new demo that you got to play last week, what did it consist of, and how long did you get to play?
So it was in two parts. The first part was replaying that demo we played back at the Switch 2 event, but we got to play handheld for the first time.
Oh.
So handheld game runs smooth. I'm not great at like frame rate wise, but it looked like it was hitting 60 pretty consistently. I didn't notice any performance or visual bugs or anything like it. That ran clean. It felt great on the handheld. It played through that whole demo in like 15 minutes and it felt great. Then we were brought into another room that had like light projections on the walls. They tried to make it like immersive experience, and we got to play through the Fury Green biome, which is sort of that jungle biome with the bridge that you've been seeing in a lot of the trailers.
Mm.
So we got to explore that area, and it's pretty early. It seems pretty early on in the game. You're getting missiles in this game for the first time. Like you're really starting to build your arsenal throughout that biome. And we got about, I'd say that demo was maybe about 45 minutes to an hour, give or take. But yeah, it was really funny. I walked in. I'm gonna set the scene a little bit. Walked in, TV, big desk mat, and it was like, here's a pro controller, here are the Joy-Cons. Play however you want. So I started playing around. I was like, I'm gonna play with the pro controller a little bit. Felt, exactly what you would want from just a standard controller experience. Then I'm playing with the two Joy-Cons, just one in each hand, just like sitting back, just kind of chilling, like how I would play if I'm on the couch. Felt great. And then I used the mouse controls, and I used the mouse controls again, like most of my demo. And the demo starts up, and Samus lands in the biome. You hear that like choral, like vocal choir hymn, and you're like, okay, we're back in Metroid Prime. And I immediately started scanning things. You're just scanning all the flora and the fauna, and you're walking through these really detailed environments. Like, we were playing in quality mode, so it was like the 60 FPS 4K or whatever it was, and not the 120 frames per second mode. And so visually, like, this game is very dense. The way the lighting comes through the trees, all the different like alien plants that are like moving around and sort of like pulsating as you walk by them and glowing, and it does a really good job of pulling you in pretty fast into like, you're in this area, things are trying to kill you, you got to just keep going. And the demo is a lot of that. It's a lot of what you expect from Metroid Prime. It's a lot of shooting a door to open it, to walk through it, to going into a morph ball and crawling through little, vents and narrow corridors, and then coming to a wall that you scan. And it's like, it'd be really great if you had some explosives. If you don't have some explosives, you probably can't get past this wall. You're like, okay, well, me having played Metroid before, it's like, all right, I got to go find missiles.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're fighting aliens, and a pretty good variety too. There were some flying guys. There were these spiky orbs that would like fly at you. And of course, you're scanning them and getting the most ridiculous proper nouns you've ever seen in your life. Like, one of them was like sporangium of Gaspor. And I was like, I'm sure that means something to somebody, but in this moment, it means nothing to me. But I'm glad that I scanned it. And so you're sort of making your way through this jungle. There's like weird little rock guys that shoot spines everywhere if you're near, almost like landmines. And so you're really like, you're looking up, you're looking down, you're constantly head on a swivel throughout this whole experience. And then I get to a room that gives me my psychic power. So sort of the big thing of Metroid Prime 4 is they give Samus these new psychic abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one that you get is sort of like a telekinesis. It doesn't work on everything. It only works on specific things. But it was a lot of like finding a statue and grabbing a gem from the statue and then using that gem to put it in another statue to like open a door or whatever.
So basic stuff to kick it off, just like kind of the tutorial missions.
Yeah, and then I was finding some other cool things, which was like, I scanned something and these purple hidden platforms appeared. Like, they were invisible before that. And then it was like, oh, you need these boots to be able to climb on these platforms. And so they were already indicating like, you're going to come back here. You're going to be able to go get your upgrade that we're going to put in front of you. You can see it in the distance, your energy tank and all that stuff. And so they're already planting the seeds of like how you're going to come back into the zone later. And so we're progressing. There's a bunch of other psychic abilities. Like, you're drawing like runes on rocks to do other things. And then eventually you come across a new psychic ability. And I think this was sort of the crux of a lot of the puzzle solving in this section, which was, it's a charge shot that you shoot, but then you can control its trajectory. So it kind of almost goes like first person on the bullet, and you're dragging it around and you're putting it through little holes to get on the other side of a door, or you're using it to like curve around something.
So it's just like Wanted, the video game.
Exactly. It's exactly like
which Wanted. We already got because that game rules. If you haven't played the original the Wanted video game back in Xbox 360.
I should play that game. I talk about Wanted 2009 a lot. Everyone knows that. Clearly,
fantastic movie.
And so it's a demo that was like really escalating, right? It was really just building on itself and showcasing what I love about Metroid, which is you feel very isolated. You're puzzle solving, but you're also seeing the glimpses of how these areas interconnect and how you're going to come back to them later and you're going to figure this out. And then eventually I get to a part where I find a man, in like a suit, like a
Like
robotic
a
futuristic
oh,
suit.
I thought you meant
No,
like a shirt and tie
no,
and
that'd be so
jacket.
cool though.
Just
And he's like on
complete
top of
complete expectation breaking. Like
yeah, it's like what's this businessman doing here? Uh, and his name is Miles. I don't know much about him. He's like an engineer specialist, but he sort of you save him from some aliens. You get your missiles, and then he sort of becomes your like right hand man for like the rest of this level, which is really interesting because I'm not used to having like a companion
yeah.
physically with me. He's a little quippy. I don't. I'm still figuring out if I like Miles. I don't know Miles' vibe too well. Trying to figure him out. But he sort of became like, oh, we're gonna go to a computer terminal and I'm gonna like do this thing over here. You go over here and do this thing, and I'll like try to unlock a door for you, or I'll try to do whatever. So it was like kind of nice to have somebody also here.
Mhm.
So I was like, you're talking a little too much. Like, maybe over there, man.
Yeah, the selling point of a Metroid game is like the solitary experience,
Yes,
right? Like you're experiencing its atmosphere is the first thing a lot of people bring up about Metroid games. So I'm hoping that he's not around too much, or maybe he just eventually learns to shut up.
my theory, and this is just a theory. Crucially, I do not have any more information. Is that he is sort of like helping you through this biome, and then maybe when you are like done in this area, he will go somewhere else, and you will not see him anymore. Like maybe there's some sort of home base, or like he just goes back to the ship, and he becomes the guy that like when you go to like a save room, he'll like talk to you.
Mm.
But I think I hope that that's the case. But then like I said, it just kept escalating because like you meet this guy, he's helping you out, and then there's this big fight scene on this bridge. Like you've seen it in some of the trailers. It's the big bridge with the building in the distance. You're sort of like looking over at a lot of the like horizon, and these aliens are hopping up on the bridge, and Miles is with you taking cover, and you're sort of protecting him as you keep pushing forward on this bridge. And the music is like, there's like electronic sort of like synthy vibe going on, and you're just sort of pushing forward, and these aliens are coming from every direction over the bridge. And it's really this like really fun like sectioned thing because the bridge is narrow, and it's just the only goal is to get across it, and it's like this really really fun like set piece moment that doesn't have any cutscenes attached to it, or it's really just like a gameplay straight shot, and it felt really good. You're using the missiles, you're using your charge shot, you have this like sidestep dash when
Hmm.
you're Z targeting, like it plays so fluid that I was like really shocked how much fun I was having. Because normally you go to a preview event or you demo it, and it's like, okay, it's not like the perfect environment because there's a lot of people talking around you. It's a little loud. You're hearing everyone else's game. You're doing all these things. But I was like so locked in. I was so in the zone on this demo. And then eventually it culminates in this boss fight where you got to use all your psychic powers to sort of defeat this plant-like creature. And so you're spinning charge shots and trying to hit all these different tentacles of the thing at once, and it's throwing up walls and vines and thorns, and you're doing this like dance between it. And then you get another power, you get bombs, and you're like, okay, well, if you played Metroid, you know what to use the bombs for. And then the demo just kind of ends.
Oh,
You beat
so
the
you
boss,
didn't
you
get to
get the
play the
bombs.
motorcycle?
No
Oh,
motorcycle, which was a bit of a bummer. But yeah, they like wouldn't. We didn't learn anything about the motorcycle.
that's a bummer. I was
I
really hoping to learn more about
think
that.
I think had they let us keep playing, we probably would have reached the motorcycle fairly shortly. Because basically the demo ends with you get like shot out of this like cannon type deal to
Okay.
like I like has like leave the area. Um, and then the demo sort of is like, okay, he's like, thanks for playing. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's probably going to spit us out somewhere. And that's like, all right, you're going to get the bike shortly after that and then continue on. But we were not given any additional information about the bike.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, we did not get to see the bike. We did not get to play with the bike.
Was there a bike, like a physical bike there? Like didn't they have like a prop or
They
something?
had, yeah, they had a photo, like a photo, it's like a standee
Oh,
that was
okay.
Samus on the bike.
So it was just
But
a
yes, the
standee.
bike
It
was
wasn't like a
not
full
playable.
statue.
No, it's just a standee.
Got it. I
Um,
remember seeing some of those posts on social media where it was like, "Hey, Nintendo invited me to this thing, and check back next week for more on this game."
yeah.
And I looked very quickly, so I thought it was a statue, but yeah, it turns out it's just a standee. But
No, it's a
that
really
that gave
nice
me hope.
standee comparatively to other
Yeah,
standees. Craftsmanship was through the roof.
that cardboard, man, it's extremely impressive. But getting back to the game, like I also came away from my Switch 2 reveal event demo. I thought that, like, the action was really fun. The movement felt great. The mouse controls, fantastic. I thought it was basically like that was my biggest takeaway from like the Switch 2 reveal event in general. After I was playing it was like how magical it feels to basically take your Joy-Con like that you're holding and just turn it and instantly it's
Yeah.
in mouse mode, which is wild. Like I can't believe that they pulled that off and it feels as good as it does. And then of course like it feels like accurate when you're aiming or controlling Civ 7 with it or whatever you're doing with it. Maybe playing Dragon Drive, but I don't think there's anybody playing that. And
Unfortunately, I don't think
then
so.
and the other thing was how good Metroid Prime 4 looks in action.
Yeah.
Like I think they told us like the one that we played at the Switch 2 reveal event was like doing like the 120 frames per
Yeah.
second or whatever. Was that the case at this one?
No, so I did switch partway through my demo to the 120 FPS, but they had us on quality mode
Okay.
originally. And so I will say, just as like a small note, the mouse controls still feel very good in quality mode, but you can tell a little bit that you're playing at a lower frame rate because of the mouse. Like it does feel a little sluggish in cases, like, especially in like high intensity fights when you're really trying to like whip that thing around.
Sure.
You can be like, oh, it's just not as smooth as I think I would like. So I did switch to 120 FPS, and it felt like just as fluid as I remembered it feeling. But playing on the quality mode, like that game looks so good. Like I said, like the way, just like how dense that environment is, and how the light is like bouncing off the trees and like coming through like the canopies, and it really impressed me in a way that I don't really remember the last time I looked at a Switch game or Switch 2 game and went like, this looks really, really good. That isn't like a specific artistic style. Like this just like graphically, fidelity wise, felt really, really strong.
Yeah, that opening cutscene in the demo back in April, I was just like, this is a really like good looking game.
Yeah.
And it's not just the frame rate. It's like, yeah, the environments look fantastic. The lighting looks great. The character models look awesome. So those were my key takeaways there. And I came away from there like being like, at first I was like a little bit ambivalent towards like Metroid Prime 4,
Mhm.
where I was like, you know what, I really like Metroid Prime 1. I kind of bounced off Metroid Prime 2 when it first came out, and I never played Metroid Prime 3. So like this is going to be like the ultimate wait and see game. But I came away from that April demo being like, oh wow, this is actually like really high on my most anticipated Nintendo games list. Where are you at? Like, how did this new demo? Like, well, let's start with the old demo. Like, you went into that demo. What was your out of 10 hype ranking before playing the April demo? Like, before getting your hands on it whatsoever? Metroid Prime 4.
Oh, I'm gonna be so real. It was a 0. Like before
Wow.
playing the demo, like but it's a twofold. It's a twofold issue. One, I did not believe that game was real. Like I just like I was refusing until somebody got their hands on it. It had a date. It was coming out because that game was in the ether for so long, and having known development issues to a certain extent. So it was like, I don't want to get my hopes up. I don't want to even think about this thing. I need to see it. I need to play it. Whatever. So it was a 0 in that regard because I was refusing to let myself even think about that game. And then I played the April demo and I was like, it's real. It's here. It's coming out at some point. And I let myself get a little more excited because we still didn't have a date for it, which was like super weird because everyone was expecting it at that event to get a date because everyone's like, oh, this is going to be either a launch title or it's going to be shortly after. And, it's coming out a couple
Yeah,
months
we
after.
thought it was going to be like
Sure.
the Breath of the Wild situation where it would
Yeah.
come out on Switch 2 and Switch and it would just be like the launch title. But no, we got Mario Kart World, which again, good launch
Great
title,
game.
obviously. Like, but yeah, so what you emerged from that April demo, what was your hype rating out of 10 at that point?
I'd say probably like a 5 or a 6. Like
Okay. So
it
pretty
jumped pretty
modest.
significantly. Because again, like we didn't have a date and I was like, okay, did I just play a demo that I'm going to see 100 times in the next 2 years before this game comes out again? Literally the day we got the date, it went to like an 8. It went to like an 8. And I was like,
Okay.
okay, we're getting there. And then I'm walking away from this demo, I'm at like a 9. I'm like
Wow.
it's probably for the rest of this year, it's probably my most anticipated game. I know there's not a lot of time left in the year, but it is probably my most anticipated game at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about how busy the beginning of December is, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty stoked for Octopath and Marvel Cosmic
Same.
Invasion and stuff like that. And we still have Black Ops 7 right around the corner, which isn't on Switch, but like it's a big release that's kind of like on the horizon. Kirby Air Riders is next week, so like there's still a good deal of amount of games coming out in 2025. So I think that I was kind of like a similar trajectory. I think it was like maybe like a 3 or 4 going into that April demo, and I came out of that demo at like a 8 probably,
Yeah.
because I was like, wow, it looks great, it plays great. And then like hearing you now like talk about how amazing this demo was and how impressed you were by it and how your hype has just skyrocketed, I think I'm probably right around there at like a 9 as well. So
Yeah.
I am very much looking forward to that. Anything else you want to touch on with Metroid Prime 4 before we move on to the final segment?
Yeah, the one thing I still have a big, outside of the bike, obviously, the big question mark I have is how these zones feed into one another.
Sure.
Because so much of a good Metroidvania is like the shortcuts and figuring out getting a power lets you get to this area, and not just areas within their own like regions, but how the regions themselves feed back into one another. And I did not get a sense of that at all in this demo. That's not what this demo was trying to show. So I'm hoping that they really still have that like really intricate winding, map that you can just sort of go from place to place and really like get lost. And that's what I love. Like Metroidvania games, Metroid games, they are exploration first for me. Like that is the thing I want to do. I want to get lost. I want to not know where I am. I want to try to figure out how to get out of here, try to figure out how to get where I'm going. And I did not get a good sense of that because the demo was pretty linear because it was very early on. So it still remains to be seen if that stuff is like very prominent in Prime 4, and I hope it is, but that's something I did not get a sense of.
Yeah, well, hopefully we will learn more about that. I'm assuming like we're recording this Thursday night before all the previews and everything go live
Mhm.
Friday morning. I'm wondering if they're going to give us a trailer with a little bit more information or something. They usually do that to coincide with like the preview embargo lifting. Like they'll usually release something so they have a little something something as
Yeah.
well in it, like to complement all the written and video previews that are going live around the internet. So we'll have to wait and see, and maybe I'll talk about it on next week's episode. But Metroid Prime 4 Beyond arriving on Switch 2 and Switch on December 4th. So after waiting more than 8 years, we are just about 3 weeks away. That is wild.
Yeah.
But we are going to take one final break. And on the other side, it's been a while since we've done definitive rankings. So I think it's time we get back to that. We have a fun topic on this one, and we will hit it right after this musical break. We are back for the final time this episode, and it's time for Definitive Ranking, a recurring segment where we take a Nintendo topic and give our own personal top 5 lists. Since Metroid Prime 4 is one of the longest awaited games in Nintendo history at this point, Jesse, for this segment of Definitive Ranking, I want to get your top 5 games you've ever been excited about in the lead up to launch. So start at 5, count it down to 1, give me a quick sentence or two about each, or a fun anecdote for that matter.
Okay. So number 5 would have to be Outer Wilds, one of my favorite games of all time.
Wow.
It's a more recent pick. I know it's still 6 years ago, but it's a more recent pick. Simply because I was really enamored by what that game was trying to do, and I was really excited for it. I felt like no one was talking about it at the time. No one really knew what was going on, and the like lack of coverage kind of made it more exciting because I was like, okay, I really don't know what I'm getting into, but I'm really excited. And then I played it, and it lived up to everything I wanted it to be and more because I had almost zero expectations for it. So that was really cool. Number 4, Super Mario Odyssey,
Mm.
because I kind of skipped Galaxy 2. I've since gone back and rectified that. But it felt like, and like I didn't play a lot of like 3D World. There was a gap in time where I didn't play a lot of Mario games, and Odyssey was coming out on the Switch. It was one of my most anticipated like of the Switch. It was one of the reasons I got a Switch outside of Breath of the Wild, and that game was just I just remember devouring like all of the E3 coverage around that game that year. And so when Odyssey came out, like I remember like booting that up as soon as it hit midnight, going in and just devouring that game. Number 3, Final Fantasy 15. This one didn't really pan out, but
Hey, I like 15.
I like 15 a lot. Like I'm a staunch 15 defender. I think that game got so much better over time.
Mm-hmm.
But that was another game that was just like in development for so long. It changed titles so many times. Or just once, but still pretty big deal. And it's like it felt like that game was never coming out. That game was just it's kind of like Metroid Prime 4, where it's just like, okay, like what are we doing? Like what's going on? Blah blah blah. And then it finally had a release date, and then it got delayed again, and then it got delayed again, and then it came out, and I didn't actually play it right away. I actually like got it for Christmas that year, and then I played through it over Christmas break because I was still in college at the time, and I remember walking away from it feeling pretty good about it, but I was also like, damn, was it just in development so long that I just built this thing up in my head, and then it sort of, yeah, I don't know. Number two, still a recent pick, Breath of the Wild. Like, how could I not? Another game that was just, we were seeing it and we were seeing it, and I specifically remember that E3 where everyone got 30 minutes, and everyone had different stories. I remember devouring all of that E3 coverage that year about Breath of the Wild, because every person you spoke to or listened to had a different tale of what they did, and it was just the Great Plateau. Like that's all people did. People were talking about fighting Taloses and climbing this mountain and getting stuck in a frozen river and doing all these things. And it's just like, is this game real? Is this game what? Like, how are we doing this? And then number one, my most anticipated game I think of all time, most excited I've ever been, Kingdom Hearts 2.
Wow.
I loved the first. I think Kingdom Hearts is a series that hit for me at the right time. I was in the like third grade or something like that. So perfect blend of Disney and all of the JRPG Final Fantasy stuff that I was just getting into at the time. And I was like, oh, this is such a weird thing. Wow, crazy. My cousin came over and showed it to me. And then I remember hearing that they were making a sequel. And when I was that young, like I didn't really have access to like a lot of information about video games. And I remember like, I guess a small plug here. I remember reading a Game Informer that
Hey.
had the map. It had like the worlds of Kingdom Hearts 2. It was like a 2-page, here's all the like the map or whatever. And I remember just going over that again and again and again and just looking at all the different worlds and being like, oh my God, they're doing Pirates of the Caribbean. Oh my God, they're doing like the like the black and white like cartoon Mickey Steamboat Willie version. Like, wow, like, and I think I like burned holes into that magazine just looking at it for so long. And then Kingdom Hearts 2 came out and it was like everything I wanted it to be and more. And I think it was just like the perfect like start to finish of just a totally great experience.
Wow. I mean, that's there were a million games to choose from for this list, so it doesn't surprise me that there was no overlap whatsoever on our lists here. But that all of those are great picks, and I was super excited for several of those as well. I've never been a Kingdom Hearts guy, but a lot of those other ones I was extremely stoked for. But my number five, Sonic Adventure 2.
Mm.
I loved Sonic Adventure. It was the reason that I bought a Dreamcast. I went to a neighbor's house and played it, and I was like, this is mind blowing. If you're watching the video version, I'm wearing a Sonic and Knuckles hoodie. So like I'm a longtime Sonic fan, and seeing him in 3D was like, okay, I need to go cut a lot of grasses so that I can go and buy a Dreamcast and Sonic Adventure. And I played the crap out of it. I beat it probably like 4 or 5 times in like the couple of years between when the Dreamcast and Sonic Adventure came out and when Sonic Adventure 2 came out. And I was like sleepless in the lead up to Sonic Adventure 2 because I was so excited for it. And then it came out and it was fantastic and I loved it. I got like the special edition that had like the commemorative coin and like the soundtrack and everything. It was super fun. Number 4 for me, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Mm.
And the reason for that was I actually was not super excited for Breath of the Wild. Like I was excited for it because it was a new Zelda game, but I had some concerns because it was really hard to demo in an E3 demo. I was at that E3 and I think I may have written the coverage for Game Informer at that E3, but I did get to play it regardless. And I kind of walked away being like, don't really know how I feel about that because it was so different. And then, of course, by the time I played through it the first time when it came out, it was my favorite game of all time. So, like, naturally, when there's a direct sequel in a series that doesn't typically get direct sequels, and it's a sequel to my favorite game ever, I'm going to be stoked on it. And then I got to go to New York and play it back right before it came out. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is everything that I want in a sequel. I was super stoked for Ganondorf. I still think it's a very, very good game, and I think it's like, one of my favorite games of the last like several years. But it hasn't really taken the place of Breath of the Wild because it just wasn't as impactful because I'd
Yeah.
already done a lot of the stuff that Tears of the Kingdom does in Breath of the Wild. But still, I think it was warranted hype. Number three, Mass Effect 3.
Mhm.
Mass Effect 2, another one of my favorite video games to ever exist. It's a top 10 game of all time for me. And Mass Effect 3 looked like it was doing all the right things, and I still loved it. Like, I know that there's like the controversy surrounding the ending and all that stuff. I didn't care about that. I thought the gameplay was fantastic. The story, everything was just incredible. It didn't bother me as much that, like, all right, your choices don't matter necessarily to the extent that they do in the rest of the game. Like, the way that like doing loyalty missions and everything made it so that like characters would survive the final mission of Mass Effect 2, or like choosing the right person for the right job like made it so those characters survived. Like, it didn't matter to that extent, but everything in the lead up to that was so perfectly executed in a way that we had never seen before in a big RPG like that like it's funny. I remember like I got a review copy of that game back in 2012, and it got shipped to my apartment, and I was out of town, and I got a notification as I was driving back from the other side of the state of Maryland that my copy was delivered, and I was like an hour and a half away, and I'm like, oh no, I hope nobody steals it out from like the front of my porch. And I got there and there was nothing on the front of my door, and I was like running around, and I guess like the dude below me heard me like running around, like rummaging. I'm like throwing stuff, like not throwing stuff, but like, like turning over stuff, trying to see like, all right, do they leave it here? Do they leave it here? And then the guy knocks on the door, and I open the door like in a panic because I'm like, this game just is not here. And he's like, oh, you have a package, and it got delivered to me downstairs. And I was just waiting for you to come back because I came up earlier and you weren't here. And I'm like, I don't even know if I said anything to him. I was like, thank you. And I grabbed it and like shut the door behind him, and then went and started playing the entirety of the rest of the evening, and absolutely loved it. Number two for me, Pokemon Yellow. The
Yeah.
height of Pokemania. I had played Blue probably like 2 or 3 times through at that point. The anime was just like my obsession. I was just watching the crap out of that. I was collecting the Pokemon cards. I was, what was that, 99, 98? That was like early
Yeah, it was
99, I
early.
think. So I was 12 years old, perfect demographic for this. I remember like dragging my mom to a Toys R Us right when they opened so I could go get my copy of Pokemon Yellow, and just the joy when you in your like terrible Game Boy speakers, you hear it try to like approximate the sound of Pikachu talking in the anime. And then like, you're going through and all the sprites have been updated, and like Jesse and James from Team Rocket are in it, and you're like, this is the greatest thing that's ever
Yeah.
existed. And I just remember like being just like, we've got to go to the store, Mom. There's a new Pokemon game. And she's like, fine, let's go. Like, if it'll make you leave me alone. And then the final one, the most excited I've ever been for a video game, not what probably most people are expecting, Guitar Hero 3, Legends of Rock.
Yeah.
I tried to scam Target and Sears into giving me an early copy. Like, this was like in college that this was coming out. I was playing Guitar Hero 2 obsessively. I skipped meeting Taylor Swift because I was playing Guitar Hero 2. Basically, she came and played at my college when she was like really young, and I
Yeah.
went to like a pretty mid-sized college. And my girlfriend at the time was like, hey, we're going to this country show, do you want to come? And I was like, you know what, make this a girls' night. I'm just going to stay home and play Guitar Hero 2. And like, she came back from that like 3 hours later. I was like, oh, how was it? And she's like, oh, it was great. She played all these like songs that I love, and like stayed after and met everyone, took pictures with everyone, like shook everyone's hand, signed everything. She's like, I got a signed like cowgirl hat, and I'm like, cool. I'm glad that you had that. I'm excited to never hear about this person again.
Boy, were you
And
wrong.
then, boy, was I wrong. And but yeah, so basically, I can always say that I turned down meeting Taylor Swift to play Guitar Hero.
That
Um,
rules.
but Yeah, so Guitar Hero 3, I would go to like when there was a new Guitar Hero game coming out, I would go to like Sears because they specifically did not have people who knew like what release dates were. So
Yeah.
I would be like, "Hey, like this game came out yesterday and I was hoping to like get a copy, but I don't see it on the shelf. Can you go in the back and check to see if you have a copy?" And it worked a couple of times. So they would come out and be like, "Yeah, actually, I don't know why we haven't put them out yet." And I'm like, "Great, I'll take one." And they would sell it to me. Then they started putting like the street dates in the system
Mm,
themselves. So like you would scan it and be like, you can't sell this until November 15th or whatever. And it'd be like, oh, so that fell apart pretty quickly. But yeah, Guitar Hero 3 was a game that I was like frothing at the mouth to play.
it's a
And
good pick.
Rock Band 1 ended up being the better of like those games, but Guitar Hero 3 was still a lot of fun. And
Yeah, absolutely.
that was when I started playing Guitar Hero competitively. So it was like kind of the launching pad into that. So, apologies to Taylor Swift, I guess.
I do remember Guitar Hero 2 coming out on the 360 and getting
Mhm.
the Explorer was like the guitar it came with. And I do remember being very excited for that. That was a very fun moment because I'd been playing Guitar Hero on like PS2 or whatever. I forget what it was on, but I had a 360. And when they finally released it for 360, I got the whole like bundle with the guitar and everything and just sat in my room and just mainlined it.
Yeah, I mean I remember like I was an RA in college, so I would just leave my door open, and like the people in the dorms would just walk by, and I'd be playing Guitar Hero, and they would just come in, like pick up my second guitar because I got the guitar bundle with Guitar Hero 3, so I had like the Gibson Explorer that came with Guitar Hero 2, and I would just go and play it, and I would just have the door open. The music was like kind of like faintly coming out into the hallway. There you go. There's the Gibson Les Paul that came with Guitar Hero 3, or it looks like it anyway.
I just put
Um,
some new buttons on it, but yeah.
but yeah, so like people just come in and be like, "Hey, you want to play a song?" We play a couple songs, and then they would go on their way, and then another person would come in. We play a couple songs. It was a good time. That was when everybody was playing Guitar Hero. I would hold tournaments in the dorms. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
But if Taylor Swift is listening to this podcast, I'm sure she is.
Yeah. Biggest fan.
I'd happily accept an invitation to come backstage at your next show. So just, if you want to make good on the fact that I skipped the show back in 2007.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
Jesse, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of All Things Nintendo.
Thanks for having me. It's always a blast.
And thank you so much, everyone, for listening. As you know, my Patreon and the associated Discord server are the best ways to get any questions or comments in, but you can also get in touch with me at brian@allthingsnintendo.com or hit me up on Blue Sky or Instagram at Brian P. Shea. Jesse, tell everyone where they can find you online.
You can find me online, mostly on Blue Sky these days, at Mama Vitelli. But if you search Jesse Vitelli, pretty much anywhere, you'll find me on Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, whatever social media you use, you can find me. I don't use all of them, but that's right. You can find my writing, my video work, my like social media stuff, all at restart.run. Great team over there doing cool stuff.
That is our show for this week. Thank you again for listening. Take care. We'll see you next time. Hey everyone, thank you so much again for listening to this episode of All Things Nintendo. Before we get out of here, I just want to give a special shout out to the $10 patrons of the show. Alex Stadnick, Andy Junkins, Ben Richland, Chad Brecky, Chaps My Ass, Derek Sigmund, Dusty Beeman, Ian T. Clark, Jason Thompson, Jawar Hello, Johnny Five, Jose Villalobos, Joshua DeProy, Casey Radioman, Cody Gibson, Creeper207, Ozman83, Paul at Drunk on Mako, Pratable, Rob McCann, Bobby Mac 265, Robert Sosa, Roberto Nieves, Roger Reichert, Russell Sayer, Smithy Poo, Zane Sink, and Zek Three Swords Sama. Thank you so much for your continued support of this show.